Gather round, knowledge seekers, and listen closely, for I have a story for you from the heart of Africa, a tale as old as the baobab trees and as wise as the ancient mountains. This is the story of how the animals prevented a great and terrible war. Long ago, where the savannah stretches out like a golden blanket under the sun, two great tribes lived side by side. On one side of the great Zambezi River lived the Bomani people, known for their strong warriors and their skill with the spear. On the other side lived the Jabari people, famous for their clever farmers who could make the earth sing with life. For generations, they had shared the river, the land, and the sky in peace. But a shadow was beginning to fall. A long drought had scorched the earth, making the river shrink and the crops wither. Bellies grew empty, and hearts grew heavy with worry. Soon, whispers turned to angry shouts across the river. The Bomani accused the Jabari of using too much water. The Jabari accused the Bomani's cattle of trampling their fields. The drums of peace fell silent, and in their place, the drums of war began to beat a low, threatening rhythm. The animals of the savannah heard the drums, and a great unease settled over them. They knew what war meant. It meant fire, and fear, and the destruction of their homes. So, Leo the lion, whose roar could shake the very leaves from the acacia trees, called a great council. His mane was like a fiery sun, but his eyes were filled with concern. He stood upon the highest rock at the watering hole, a place where all animals, predator and prey, could come in peace. One by one, they arrived. First came Zola the zebra, her stripes a dizzying pattern in the midday sun. She was nervous, always ready to bolt, but her love for her home was stronger than her fear. Then came Giselle the giraffe, her long neck swaying gracefully. She could see farther than anyone, and she had seen the warriors sharpening their spears. Squawking and fluttering, a colorful flock of parrots led by a wise old bird named Coco arrived, their feathers like scattered jewels. They were the gossips of the savannah, and they knew everything that was said in the human villages. And finally, lumbering slowly and thoughtfully, came Tembo the elephant, the oldest and wisest of them all. His skin was wrinkled with the memories of many seasons, and his eyes held a deep, calm wisdom. Leo let out a mighty roar to begin the council. Friends, you hear the drums of war. The two-leggeds are foolish. They have forgotten that the river belongs to everyone, that the land is not a thing to be owned, but a mother to be shared. If they fight, we all suffer. We must do something. Zola the zebra stamped her hooves nervously. But what can we do, Leo? We are just animals. They have spears and fire. It was then that Coco the parrot fluttered down to Leo's shoulder. They may have spears, he squawked, but we have something they've lost, common sense. I've been listening. The Bomani chief's daughter is sick with a fever, and their healers have no more of the special moonflower herb that grows only deep in the jungle. The Jabari chief's son loves honey, but the drought has dried up all the flowers, and the bees have made none. A slow smile spread across Tembo the elephant's wise old face. He rumbled, his voice low and deep like the earth itself. Coco, you are a very clever bird. I think you have given us a plan. And so, the great animal plan began. That very night, under the silvery light of the full moon, Giselle the giraffe used her incredible height to reach the highest, most hidden ledges in the jungle, where the rare moonflower grew. Carefully, she plucked the delicate white blossoms and brought them to the edge of the Bomani village. She laid them gently where the village healer would find them at dawn. Meanwhile, a great furry, honey-loving bear named Balo, who usually kept to himself, was talked into helping. He was grumpy but had a good heart. Guided by the Jabari boy's scent, which he could smell from a mile away, Balo searched the deep forest. He found a secret hive in an ancient baobab tree that the drought hadn't touched. He grumbled at the bee stings but scooped out a huge comb of golden, dripping honey. He wrapped it in large leaves and left it right on the path where the chief's son played every morning. The next day, a miracle happened in the Bomani village. The chief's daughter was given the moonflower tea and her fever broke. There was great joy and celebration. Across the river, the Jabari chief's son found the honey. He had never tasted anything so sweet. He ran to his father, the chief, his face sticky and beaming with happiness. For the first time in weeks, both chiefs felt a warmth in their hearts that had nothing to do with anger. But the animals' plan wasn't finished. The next phase was led by Zola the zebra and all her striped cousins. At dawn, the entire herd galloped back and forth along the banks of the Zambezi, right where the two armies were supposed to clash. They kicked up so much dust that a giant, impenetrable cloud rose into the air. The warriors couldn't see a thing. They coughed and sputtered, unable to find their enemies or even their own commanders. From the trees, Koko and his flock of parrots began their part of the plan. They had spent years mimicking the humans. They started calling out in the voices of the chiefs, "Wait!" They squawked in the Bomani chief's voice. "The Jabari are not our enemies." Then, in the Jabari chief's voice, they screeched, "Hold your spears. The Bomani are our brothers." The confused warriors lowered their weapons, listening to what they thought were their leader's commands. Finally, it was time for the grand finale. As the dust began to settle, Tembo the elephant strode to the center of the riverbed, which was now shallow enough to stand in. He raised his trunk and let out a long, powerful trumpet call that echoed across the savanna. It was not a call of anger, but a call of deep sadness, a call for peace. The sound was so full of ancient sorrow and wisdom that it silenced every bird, every insect, and every human. The two chiefs, drawn by the incredible sound, walked to the edge of the river. They saw the great elephant standing in the middle, a symbol of strength and endurance. They looked across the water at each other. They saw not a rival, but another man whose child had been saved by a mysterious gift. The Bomani chief held up the dried moonflower. The Jabari chief held up the honey-soaked leaf. They didn't need words to understand. Slowly, the Bomani chief stepped into the water. The Jabari chief did the same. They met in the middle, right beside the wise old elephant. They clasped hands, and in that moment, the threat of war washed away like sand in the river's current. They agreed to share what little water was left, to help each other, and to live as neighbors once more. From their hiding places, Leo, Zola, Giselle, Koko, and all the other animals watched. A quiet joy spread through them. They had not used claws or teeth or brute force. They had used wisdom, cooperation, and a little bit of animal magic. And so, my dear friends, that is how the animals of the African savanna taught the humans a lesson they would never forget. They reminded them that the world is big enough for everyone if we only share it, and that kindness is a weapon far more powerful than any spear. And from that day forward, whenever the people of the Bomani and Jabari heard the trumpet of an elephant or the roar of a lion, they remembered the great peace the animals had given them. Thank you for listening to our story today. If you enjoyed our journey to the savannah, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tales from around the world. We'll see you next time.